This is the Sweet Song Podcast where we unwrap your favorite songs. I'm your host, Kristi York Wooten, and this week, Mike Mantione is our guest. He's the leader of 5/8, a Georgia band that's making a comeback this year in a big way. Welcome to the Sweet Song Podcast. I'm your host, Kristi York Wooten, and today I'm very excited to have Mike Mantione, who is the leader of 5/8, a band that so many of us have loved for, I hate to say, decades now, right? It's been a long time. But yeah, the music is still rocking and going, and 5/8 has a lot of things coming out that we're going to talk about, including a new single. And then album Help a Sinner, and then a big show if you're in Atlanta at Smith's Old Bar on December 12th. So we're going to talk all about these things. And Mike, it's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you too, Kristi. How you doing?
I'm good.
Awesome.
I love that this is kind of the year of 5/8. I know that we had you guys in the studio at GPB, and you've had a lot of, between the documentary about you guys, which we'll let you talk about in a second too, and then this new recording, it's kind of like a 5/8 renaissance right now.
It does feel like we've suddenly got a lot of, attention, if you would, about as much as an indie band like us can get.
Well, a lot of folks may not know, your backstory, so we'll kind of hit on that a little bit. For years based in Athens, Georgia, but coming from different places in the country. And then this past year, tell us a little about the documentary that came out, and so folks will know how that's kind of reinvigorated old fans and made new ones.
Yeah, so the documentary is called Weirdo, The Story of 5/8. It was done by Mark Plavinsky, who used to be the editor of Flagpole magazine. So he had interviewed us years and years ago, back when in our heyday, and just thought, these guys are not my they're like, I love the band. I don't like the guys. But, years later, we hit up on Facebook, shockingly enough. And then I asked him to help kind of, archive some stuff that was happening for the band at that time. And we were revisiting an old record, Weirdo, the album Weirdo, and we were remastering it with the producer, David Barbie. And David Barbie has been a big fan of the band for years. And he also produced Drive-By Truckers, and he's done work with Uncle Tupelo. I mean, he's just done a lot of great stuff in Athens and really nationally too. And right now he's playing with Bob Mould again in Sugar. And so, he's kind of a guy who really wanted to revisit the record. And when he revisited the record, we had Mark document that story, and he made a little video. And the video was so good, I was like, why don't you make a documentary about the band? He's like, he didn't think we had any archival footage, because usually you don't, when you're a band this small. But, we had been working with filmmakers our whole career. And so we had a lot of footage, and we had a huge amount of stuff.
I guess a benefit from being in Athens with all the artistic people making films and shooting music videos and doing different things, just being around those folks.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Would yield a lot of material, right, for a documentary. So one other little thing I'd love to encapsulate, obviously you kind of have in some ways like a classic arc of what happened to a lot of bands who were kind of, the mid-90s were just like a period of, people getting dumped from record labels and, labels being bought by other record labels and all the things that were happening to bands sort of, that time period. But take us back to, there's a moment in the documentary, and I know we discussed it before, is where, REM called on you guys to be a part of something they were doing. Can you tell us about how that was in some ways kind of an ending and a beginning and this just point in your career?
Well, it was kind of funny because it came after all the 90s stuff happened. So you had this big explosion of bands in Athens, and we were at a peak in around 95, 96. And we were selling out the 40 watt multiple times a year. We were traveling all over the country, doing 200 dates a year in a van, not a bus tour. So indie rock and indie clubs. We got picked up by Walter Yetnikoff, who, did CBS Records. He had me up to the Trump Towers. I got to meet him. Ahmet Ertegun. I got to hear stories about Bruce Springsteen, Nebraska, and how he was a genius because he let Bruce put out Nebraska. And then what happened? Of course, Born in the USA, So all this stuff was happening, and then the band basically almost broke up. I mean, we did break up. Sean and Patrick left the band, and we had a new drummer, Mike Rizzi. And on the second record, we kind of hit like this kind of like hot bed of activity. Next started playing songs of ours again. And we were on their website as their buzz band. So we were getting played on commercial radio. And it was 2004. And we were getting huge crowds in Atlanta. We had some video of one of our Cotton Club shows hit like 45,000 views on YouTube. And the next thing I know, we had a single and Burtis Downs called our manager and said, "Hey, does 5/8 want to tour with REM?" And of course we were like, "Yes." So we got to open, and those shows, their world tour in 2004 out in LA, and play with him in Seattle, San Francisco, ultimately play with him in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And it was an amazing thing. It was just a dream come true, really, for us.
Like, I don't know. I guess the higher pinnacle of that would be to just be REM, but that's like the next best thing, right?
Well,
Being with,
there's only one, right? There's only one REM.
right.
There's only one Wilco. We got to open for both of those bands. We opened for Wilco at an art exhibit in a museum in New Orleans at this incredible show. But that REM show was just really special. And I came to Athens to see and join that vibe, join that scene. And so it was like it was like an amazing point of our career. And then, of course, we got done with that tour and it was business as usual.
Well, there's only one 5/8 too. The story right now is that 5/8 is right here in the present. And I have to tell you, even though it's not out yet, and if we can't talk about it right now, we can figure out that later. But not the 4th of July, like you played that once in the studio for me. To me, it was like the most powerful song I heard this year. And I'm dying for it to just like come out on vinyl or something so that I can like buy everybody a copy. But let's talk about being, a musician.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Of course. I love that song. And I want to say, like, somebody with a past and a history and things that 5/8 had achieved, and also kind of like going back and in and out of music and being regular guys and having jobs and doing all these things. And then to just be able to pull something like that out, which, by the way, is obviously a little bit of a political song, but also just kind of a moment in time. I mean, you mentioned Born in the USA at the top of this conversation of talking about CBS Records, and I'm sure I don't know if you've seen the Bruce Springsteen
Absolutely.
movie.
Of course, have seen it. I am like a crazy Springsteen
To
fan.
me, that's kind of like a parallel in our conversation of talking about this song. So I know we can't play it in the background right now or whatever for the listeners, but there is this 5/8 song that's all about life in 2025, right? I mean, here we are. Can you tell us a little bit about writing it and maybe some of the lyrics a little bit so we can just give people an idea?
The song came from, just having this idea that people were trying to co-opt what for me was and I think for everybody in America is this super special day of like freedom and barbecues and family and inclusion and immigrants. I'm from a family of immigrants. We came here and we were in Brooklyn and Staten Island. Our families would get together and we would light off fireworks and everyone would just have this incredible backyard party. My grandfather, um, Eric, was Swedish and he came over and they made him have his birthday be the 4th of July. We don't know that his birthday was the 4th of July, but that's when we celebrated it. And so it kind of just wraps that in. And then just watching this destruction of what I consider the most amazing parts of this country, separation of church and state, all those things. We hold these truths to be self-evident, everyone's created equal, everybody. And so I just want to get that loss in there. And I wanted it to not be so angry. I wanted it to be sad. I wanted to, and it is sad for me. And I want to bring that sadness to the people when they hear it. I mean, it's got energy and it's intense, but it is, when it's not the 4th of July, when the 4th of July isn't the 4th of July anymore, it's like your heart is broken. Your heart is broken. And all your dreams are like, wow, what happened?
Well, and I think that speaks to just the power of songwriting and probably why 5/8 is doing stuff right now. I mean, I think writing songs that come from a place that's very real, whether it manifests itself. I mean, you presented that on an acoustic guitar, just very simple, unadorned, and just from the heart. But even to like the stage shows you guys are known for, when you and Dan are just like rocking out and like, it's like, that's the whole 5/8 thing, that power and the edge and the intensity. And so, but this is more, like you said, it is a sad song, but to me, it's more just about the immense heart that's in the song as opposed to focusing on being sad. It's more like being just emotionally feeling like someone has captured the moment. You know what I mean? So that really speaks to the art of songwriting. So really congratulations on that again. But that really has, you know.
Thank you so much. I mean, to be on this podcast with the people that you've had on this podcast, I feel very honored that you would say anything like that. It means a lot. I really,
Oh,
really
well,
appreciate
oh,
it.
yeah, of course. I mean, good songs are good songs, and that's why this is called the Sweet Song Podcast, But let's talk about some of your sweet songs. Before we get your sweet song that you wrote, and I guess we've already talked about not the 4th of July, so we can't choose that one, but let's talk about some of the songs that you guys were listening to, back when you started, or even things that are, really sweet now that you think are just you wish you wrote them, basically.
So a lot of I mean, my songwriting is influenced by everything. I don't really have a favorite genre necessarily, even though I play indie rock 'cause is what I'm most comfortable doing. It's the one that just comes naturally to me. So, coming from songs like Celebrated Summer by Husker Du, and then, going back to like AM radio and grabbing things like Sweet Caroline and just like I mean, the first single was, Bridge Over Troubled Water. And so, and I had that on vinyl and I had a little record player and I played it over and over again. I think the flip side was Kodachrome. And so those things, that was what was important to me, those songs. And so I really I kind of I listened to all that and then, now I love to listen to the latest stuff that comes out, like with the kids are, like, I mean, Geese to me is just an amazing band. And I hear a song like, Taxes, and I'm just like, I just freaking love it. I just love it. I always think of, I mean, obviously REM, South Central Rain is like, the greatest song ever. um, yeah, so I mean, I just love all those songs. I love ELO. There's, you know, Mr. Blue Sky. I mean, that was one I wish I had wrote recently. I've actually had my other band, the Bad Ends. We've actually tried to learn it because we've got it. This song is so great.
ELO tends to be a very recurring topic on this podcast. It doesn't matter who's on, we always come back to Jeff Lynne somehow.
I
And
mean, he's a brilliant.
maybe
Yeah.
that's like the universe thing. Maybe that's why we're all kind of, drawn together. But yeah, no, so what to you, besides REM, what to you is another sort of instance of when you first moved to Athens? What was the Athens sound? Like it could even be something obscure that never quite made it, but was there like a song that you remember, like, one of the other bands that was getting started
Absolutely.
playing?
So there's a couple songs. There's three bands. Obviously, Vic Chestnut
Oh,
saw him, with 30 people at the 40 Watt. Absolutely blown away, changed my entire life. Jack Logan, Shrunken Head, absolutely brilliant. One of the greatest songs. I mean, it's just a great song. It sums up just the glands, the same type of thing. I mean, just like the and then a band called Dashboard Saviors, and they were a great band, and they had a couple of songs that really just sprung my creativity. Athens had so many amazing songwriters at that time, and a lot of them became recognized. Jack Logan obviously did. Peter Buck produced their record. They went on to do a bunch of stuff, and then the Glands, obviously Vic Chestnut. I mean, these were guys that were, playing to 100 people like we were. And some of them, gained just incredible just respect in the industry as just being really incredible songwriters. And that's who I hung out with and went to house parties with. Me and Dan would go to a house party and see Vic play or see like, Jack Logan play and, just was freaking, play frat parties with the Dashboard Saviors, it was just the greatest. Marley McLeod, just lots of great songwriters in the 90s, early 90s, 80s, really, almost 89.
That's awesome. How lucky we are to have been alive in kind of like this final end of the human renaissance, before AI takes over completely. Like, we're like, man,
I can't do crap.
we lived through the Renaissance, right? So
Yeah.
let's
I tried to work with AI. It is hysterically pathetic. You have to edit everything.
technology. Well, let's talk about I'm Alone first.
All right.
Let's talk about that one. Tell me what's going on. Is the
You know,
music
it's not supposed to have a something going on. It's supposed to be about a drive and a fantasy. And I wrote it and it just came to me. So I don't even know what it means. And I don't want to know what it means. Sometimes songs take on a life of their own. And this one just seems to spark people. And I like to let them have whatever interpretation they want of it. I know why I wrote it, but it's almost like why I don't want to go that deep with it. I think loneliness is brutal now. And it was so great seeing you in person. So that makes this a lot more real for me. And having that hour and a half in the studio where I got to perform for you and just sit next to you and like that makes it for me. It really does. Performing to me is amazing. And I'm trying to master this social media thing because I think there's a lot to it. There's a lot of great stuff happening on TikTok, and there is a lot of great stuff. There's a lot of artists that are able to communicate through it, and I'd love to know how to do it. My idea was to just play all my choruses over the next 2 years. It's going to take me 2 years to get through like a couple of choruses a week, just sing them. That's it. That's all you get to hear.
Well, I'm like you. Obviously, the in-person thing is vital, and especially with music, because live music, if
Yeah.
you had played me Not the 4th of July, on a record right there, I might have dug it, but you playing it there. But I do think social media is kind of a glue because
Right.
I think that, we're all living our lives. Like, I haven't left the house today. I just literally changed into something other than pajamas like 5 minutes ago. So I would look, and then, but
Yeah.
and then we're talking, and of course, like you said, we've been around each other, so we know what that the other person is actually human and those kind of things. But I do think there's something about watching conversations, and that's one of the things that I wanted to try to do with this podcast in talking to people about songs, whether they wrote them or it's, they were inspired by others. I think these things can be glue. I think that it can bring people maybe not necessarily out of a period of loneliness per se, but out of a period of feeling like they're the only one who is feeling the way they do. So I think that, I don't know if that's the kind of thing that songs capture, but that's what I wanted to do with this because it's been, not just a pandemic, but things have changed. People, it's hard to get people out of the house to do anything. So this is where we need to talk about the live experience of seeing 5/8, and you guys do for those listeners in Georgia and Atlanta, or tell us about what you're planning because you guys have a big show on December 12th. It's called Holidays, and I know that's going to be a big deal. What do y'all have planned? Anything special?
We do. We've got a few things planned. I mean, we're going to do a bunch of the new material, which is going to be great. Probably it'll be almost like the whole record. And then we'll also have some oldies. We haven't played Smiths in a while, but the thing that's going to be really fun is I wrote a Christmas song and sent it to James Hall, who plays, who play with Mary My Hope and just so many great bands, The Pleasure Club, and just had been on Geffen and just a super great songwriter. He's a studier of writing songs, and I wrote this Christmas song, and then I told him, "You need to just go ahead and chop it up and do whatever you want with this song." And he was like, "Awesome." So we kind of worked at it, not in person, even though we knew each other and we had some time. But he bounced ideas off of me, and I was like, "Yeah." And then we went in and recorded it, and so there's going to be a little a Christmas single, and it's a pretty. I like it. I love the song, and I love what he did with it. And he sang it, and we played, backed him up. And that night we'll perform it, so it'll be really fun. It'll be a heck of a party, and I'm looking forward to that kind of collaboration with another songwriter and just another great performer.
Yeah, that's
Whatever.
awesome. We talk about the album Help a Sinner, how you came up with the name, and what the timeline on all that stuff is.
So we've got a new record label, and it's Static Era, and they're going to put out the record for us. And Jay Research is the guy, and he's sort of a um record store owner up in Connecticut, and he got the record through a friend of his that works in Red Eye Distribution and knew about 5/8. And when they heard the record, they loved it. The record's got it's about 12 songs deep. It has one Vic Chestnut cover on it as well. It's Help a Sinner was a song I wrote last year. And so actually 2 years ago now. And we recorded almost immediately as soon as I wrote it. And it is a crazy, fun, almost rockabilly crazy number. It's just really fun. Has a great dance groove. And we even did some hand claps to get people moving. It's pretty funny. Yeah.
So when is everything going to come out?
So we're looking at mid-March, right around the time of South by Southwest. We're going to go out to South by Southwest and hopefully release the whole record right then and there, and it'll be really fun. Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we've had it in the can for a while.
Yeah, you've been working, and this whole year things have been coming together, which is so fantastic for you guys. So now we got to get to your sweet song. We got to figure out which one is Mike's sweet song. Of your 5/8 compositions, what's it going to be?
Anything we've done in 5/8, what is the sweetest song? Well, I know what my daughters think my sweet song is. So it's Ode to Massachusetts, and they both love it, and Lyric and Maggie, and so that would probably have to be mine.
Tell us some more, though, for people who don't know the song.
So it's on an album called Your God Is Dead to Me Now, which was Patrick had rejoined the band. He helped produce. He was the engineer on the record. We did it locally, all done in Athens. We produced it. We released it ourselves. And a couple of guys in Athens, Troy Aubrey and Jeff Montgomery, helped us put it out with a little imprint that they put together called Iron Horse Records. And it's on that album. And you can get it right on iTunes, on really anywhere. And so it's about a march in it's a gay pride parade in San Francisco that me, Dan, and Patrick went to back in 92 when we recorded our first album out in San Francisco. And it was a mind blower parade because it was it was the tail end of AIDS. And there's this point in the parade where all of a sudden, there's drag queens and there's all this amazing stuff. And it's San Fran. We're in Haight-Ashbury. It is a super party of explosive awesomeness. It's America at its best. And then at the end, all of a sudden, there's all these people in flannels and just like regular clothes, and they're all walking. And then I realized that it's the friends and family of the people that died. And they're all holding signs for their loved ones. And they're marching in this parade for their loved ones. I mean, I lost it. Everybody lost it. It was just like, holy cow. Trying to capture that in a song. I don't know if you can do it, but I tried. I tried really hard.
Well, thanks so much, Mike. This has been really fun.
You're great. What you do with this podcast is awesome. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I want to it's all out of just wanting to share good music and talk about songs. So that's fun to do. Well, take care, Mike. I'll talk to you soon.